What's up everyone? So today's video we're going to be going ahead and showing you how to pin the crank pulley, and the reason you would be doing this is on the Procharger kit you're going to have the supercharger driven off the belt, the same serpentine belt that powers all of your accessories. But what happens is you're going to be putting a lot more stress on the crank pulley and all the pulleys for that matter, but because the supercharger is going to be essentially a pump, it puts a lot more stress on. So what they do in the Procharger kit is they get you to pin the crank, and it's just a little dowel, essentially a steel dowel, and they give you a little kit so that you can pin the crank, which what it does is you drill it out and it connects and locks together the crankshaft and the crank pulley. So here is what it looks like, and they're showing you how it's done. This is the jig here, and actually the jig itself. But what you're gonna do is you set up the jig, you take out the original crank pulley bolt from the middle, and then you insert their little jig, and they don't want you to go 0.8 of an inch further is the furthest you want to go into the actual crank. You're not going to go any further, and you're going to do so by measuring the tip of the drill bit 1 inch and 5/8, and you're going to put a line of tape. So what you do is you put that together so that you don't drill too far into the actual crank itself, and you index it and then put everything in and you drill into the face of the crank. And yeah, this is the way it's set up, the way it looks. And you remove the bolts, put their jig in, drill it out, put the pin in, and then you put your stock bolt back in and torque it to spec, which is the 129 foot-pounds. And that's what the jig looks like when it's set up before you put the drill in. And here's what the pin looks like inserted and finalized. So like I was mentioning, the crank itself has something to catch on the actual pulley so that none of the stuff is going to spin. So it's pretty cool. They've designed it. It's all billet steel, so this thing it's pretty sturdy stuff and accurate stuff. And I'm going to show you guys what you need to do. You're going to need something of this sort, an impact gun, to get the crank pulley bolt off. And what I also had to do was dislodge the radiator. So because I ended up using that large impact gun, I had to take out the fan. So I removed the fan, the actually V6 fan, so it's a lot smaller. You remove the V6 fan, it's held on by two 13mm bolts on the outsides. And I also, one extra step I'm going to show you guys is I removed these rubber stoppers that hold the radiator in place. And the reason being is because that electronic impact gun is so big, I removed this so that it's free floating, and I took out these rubber stoppers so that I could actually push the radiator forward like so. So it just gives you that extra bit of clearance that you need in the back there to get the gun in. And just zipped it off, and then I'll go ahead and show you guys. For whatever reason the camera decided it didn't want to record this, so I'm kind of just showing you guys after the fact. I've recorded every single step and it's gone, so I'm kind of just walking through with you guys how it actually went. And I'll show you guys now the actual process of drilling and pinning the crank and how that goes. So let's get into it. Okay, with our tool tightened, we can now go ahead and insert the drill bit. I'm able to get a full-size drill bit or drill in here. I don't have to use a right-handed drill, so we're inserted, and now what we're going to do is drill until the tape mark reaches the face and then stop. Okay, so I did use a little bit of oil on there just to make things go a little smoother. It was kind of binding on their tool, so putting a little bit of oil of any sort on there is definitely going to help. Now we can remove the tool, and we should be good to go. So I'm going to get this tool out of here and get this cleaned up, and then we'll go to the next step. So here's the hole that you're left with. You can see the hole on the top, and it merges the crankshaft here with the pulley. So it's going to index it, and that's what's going to stop everything from spinning on there. So you can see we have that nice hole. We're going to go ahead and insert that pin that they gave us into there, and then we can go ahead and put the bolt back on. So here's the pin. We'll slide that in the hole, fully seat it, like so, and then put our bolt back in. You may have to give this a few slight taps like I just did to get this flush, but you do want to make sure that it is flush with the surface of the pulley before you put the bolt in, and we're good to go. So I'm going to go ahead and throw the bolt in and torque it to spec, which is 129 foot-pounds. So the bolt's now installed, tightened, and this stage or step in the process is now done. Okay, so that's gonna do it for today's video, guys. So the crank pulley now has a pin in it, so crank pulley is pinned and it won't be spinning on the crank shaft. A lot of cars, they'll end up keying or indexing the crank pulley, but on this particular vehicle, and actually even Vipers for that matter, they don't index the crank pulley, so you can actually run the risk of spinning it on the crankshaft, and if that pulley ends up spinning on the crankshaft, it'll end up ruining the crankshaft, and I'm sure you guys can figure that out, that if you ruin the crankshaft, the whole motor has to come apart and new crank and everything goes along with that. So we don't want to do that, but that is now done, and I'll give you guys a sneak peek on what we're going to be working on next. So now that that's done, I'm going to be showing you this in the next video. I got the laptop out, I've got the HP tuners unit sitting here, and we are going to be firing this baby up. And we're going to be loading the HP tune that came from Jay Green, so we already have that. I'm going to load it up, and then as long as that loads correctly, I can go ahead and fire in the injectors. And with the injectors and that map sensor, she should run, and if that works, we're golden. So if that all works, that means I can go ahead and bolt up the actual supercharger. Intercooler's already in, you guys saw it in the last video or the other video, and we're just going to do this and we're going to be rock and rolling. So anyways, guys, thanks so much for watching. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and we're gonna be doing this, getting down and finishing it up, but we're gonna do it step by step just to make it a little less boring for you guys. But lo and behold, it is getting done. We have the garage, we have the truck parked, and like I was saying before, we also have the Jetta, which is saving us, and it is allowing us to be able to park the truck, tear into it, and get it done. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching. We're also on Instagram at Boosted Motorsports, same spelling. Also on the Facebook group, the Boosted Motorsports Facebook group. Wherever you guys want to follow along is cool with me. And we'll see you in the next video. Take care.